Your Fighting Illini have clinched a winning season with a victory over Michigan State. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good afternoon. Welcome to another live reaction, rapid reaction, whatever you want to call it, episode of Locked On Illini, where we're going to discuss the Illinois 38-16 victory over the Michigan State Spartans. The comment section's open. I want to hear exactly what you guys think of the game. I'm going to get to that a little bit later after we go over the game. But before we do all that fun stuff, thank you so much for making us your first listen every single day. Simple reminder, you can find us on your favorite audio platforms or right here on YouTube. Just do a search for Locked On Illini, and the same thing with all the social medias. X, what's the new one? Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, all that. Do a search for Locked On Illini. Send me a message if you'd like. It'll be me responding. I'm the one handling all those accounts. Let me know any feedback that you want or that you have to give, or if you want me to bring on a guest, please just let me know. If you'd like to support this channel, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button before we start. You know what? Everyone hit that like button now to start the good vibes. 7-3. The Illini have guaranteed themselves a winning 2024 season. This is something we all would have been, it would have been our goal at the beginning of the year, right? Vegas total 5.5. 6, we made a bowl game. 7 at this point has to be considered a successful year if we went back to the offseason. It isn't technically, not yet. It's time to readjust our expectations. It was once we got to 6-1, but at 7-3 now, we know that we're not going to be finishing with a 500 or worse record. And anytime you're an Illini football fan, you can say that, you celebrate. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Only as an Illinois fan do 22-point victories still seem a little stressful. Am I wrong on that? This was one of those games where for, I want to say maybe 52 minutes, I was sweating a little bit. Even when we were up 2 touchdowns early in the third quarter, Michigan State just continued to come back, and we couldn't put it away until we put it away. And Illinois basically, we have a lot to talk about, but they took care of business. I said this to my Illinois group chat. By the way, if you're not in the Discord, I have this conversations with folks throughout the game. Definitely join. I believe the link should be in the description. If it's not, let me know in the comment section. I can update it after the show's over. But 5 or 6 minutes into this game, I was like, oh, we're better than them. Illinois is a better team than Michigan State. Not that I'm detracting from Michigan State, but Michigan State's going through a whole new coaching staff, turning over their roster. They're starting over, essentially. So it's not a big deal that Illinois is better than them. Arguably, they should be better than them. But to me, it was clear very early in the game that we were. That didn't mean I was any more confident in the victory, especially after the first couple drives where Luke Altmaier had those near interceptions. Now, some of you recall, whether it's on this show here or my other show at Illini Cast, which I did earlier this morning, I said Luke Altmaier was the guy. We need a bounce back game from Luke. He's struggled the last couple of games, and I don't think it's a coincidence that it's coincided with 2 straight losses. Luke was the number one reason that Illinois jumped off to that 6-1 start this year. And when Luke struggles, then we struggle. And I'm not going to say Luke Altmaier had a great game today. Let me pull up his stats. 19 for 32, 231 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But most notably, no interceptions and no fumbles. That's kind of been the thing that's been following him around lately, right? There were some close calls there, and I think some of you will probably agree to that. There's been a couple, I don't know. We weren't doing this earlier on in the season, but I saw Zakhari Franklin do it too, where they just held the ball with one hand for some reason. Who's teaching him that? Let's not do that thing, please. Let's just go back to fundamental football. But Luke Altmaier had an okay game. Nothing great. Nothing, that stuck out at me. But he didn't lose this game, certainly. This was one of those where there's three guys, notably for me, that, in my opinion, are the players of the games. And let me know who your player of the games are. But I'll get to that in the second segment. But this game, we're all on edge. I tweeted out that I need to see this Illinois team score. I believe we're up 21-9. And I was like, I need to see a score because I have zero faith in Aaron Henry and the defense. They every time it was third and short or fourth and short, Michigan State didn't even hesitate to go for it. And has to be disrespectful. There's no way Aaron Henry and Brett Bielema can feel good about that. And sure enough, they would get those first downs. And they, what was in the end of the second quarter or early in the third quarter, I don't have my notes on me, they ended up scoring a touchdown. And then all of a sudden, in the second half, it was the offense that just all of a sudden looked like they had no idea what they were doing. 3 straight times, Aaron Henry and the defense shut Michigan State down. Honestly, I know, usually when I join the chats, a lot of you are very vocal about how you feel about Aaron Henry and our defense and whatnot. But honestly, I think they stepped up in that second half today. Michigan State scored 16 points. They had plenty of 3-and-outs when we needed them to have 3-and-outs, when all of a sudden our offense themselves were having 3-and-outs. Aaron Henry, again, he drives you crazy, rushing only 3-4 guys on very obvious passing downs, especially against a young quarterback who's prone to making mistakes. One of the downsides to this game is I don't think we had a turnover, did we? I was thinking about that right as I hit the go live button. I don't think Illinois had a single turnover today, which is remarkable because there's no way I would have thought that we would have won by this much without turnovers. Aiden Childs, he turns that ball over in bunches. Michigan State, they turned the ball over. And I was hoping that if you had told me if you had told me this morning that the final score was going to be 38-16, I would have predicted like 2 interceptions, maybe 1 pick six or a fumble return for a touchdown. But we got none of that. This was just one team being better than the other. Let me know your thoughts again. I kind of want to talk about some of the key players, so let's just jump straight to that. And again, I want to know your guys' players of the game. I'm going to get to that in the last segment. I am so happy, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. This is why I love sports, right? For Pat Bryant to have the senior day that he just had. Pat Bryant, a guy who started off, being one of Brett's first commits or sticking on with Brett, playing, just slowly leveling up every year of his career. Pat was one of my biggest question marks coming into the year. Like, is he ready to take on that number 1 role? Not only is he ready, he's been arguably the highlight of this Illinois team. And for him to have his career high, 4 catches for 135 yards and a touchdown. Shout out to me. I had him scoring a touchdown. I figured senior day, I think I got plus 125 on it. I love seeing that. And even Zakhari Franklin, he had a touchdown. The fact that both senior wide receivers got touchdowns today, this is why you follow sports, right? And this is not on the professional level. This is why you enjoy the college level. These are kids. Pat leveled up. And, he earned this number 1 spot that he's in now. He was in the backseat the past couple of years. And now he's at 8 touchdowns, which is only, 2 away from breaking the Illini record. And we have Rutgers and Northwestern coming up. We're going to try for it, as they should. Pat Bryant is my player of the game. The other one who I wanted to mention, who I felt like his name came up constantly, and the announcer even talked about him, is T-Rod Edwards. That's a guy who was just a menace today. He was having a game. I can pull up his stats. I don't know if he had the box score stats. Not really. It doesn't really look like. But he was all up in that Michigan State offensive line the whole time. He kind of gave a glimpse of why he might have potential to play on Sundays today. The other guy I wanted to talk about, Hank Beatty. Hank Beatty, especially early when our offense was stagnant, when our defense was just giving up yardages and big time plays over and over again. I feel like every time Hank Beatty returned a kick or returned a punt, it was for very positive yardage. He gave us fantastic field position. He's one of those guys who I can't wait to see where he's at next year. Because again, he could be following the Pat Bryant plan, right? Just slowly every year taking on a bigger and bigger role. You can see his skill level. Josh McCray getting 2 touchdowns. Shout out Sam Olber, the host of Locked On Illini, Locked On Cubs. By the way, check them out. They do a fantastic job. They might be the biggest Cubs podcast out there. Sam was texting me all game long. Why don't they just keep giving it to Josh McCray? Why are you wasting your time with Aiden Lawfrey? And what happens in the fourth quarter? He got his wish. Josh McCray, 9 carries for 61 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's 3 touchdowns. Aiden Lawfrey, 10 carries for 37 yards. But Josh was clearly the best running back on the field today. Aiden Childs played like Aiden Childs plays every game. 23 for 40, but a lot of those yardage was in that fourth quarter when they needed to make some passing plays. Shout out. I want to give this respect. I should have said this in the first segment. To the Illini run defense. I've been calling them out seemingly after every episode, in every postgame, saying our rushing defense is the poorest unit on this team. One of the poorest, if not the poorest, in the Big Ten. And that I couldn't figure out why every opponent that we went up against wouldn't just rush the ball every single time. Today, Michigan State's leading rusher was Aiden Childs. 12 carries for 40 yards. Lynch Adams had 8 for 26. Nate Carter, 6 for 19. They couldn't get anything going rushing-wise. If I'm going to hate on the rush defense after every postgame where they struggle, I got to give credit where credit's due. Michigan State's not a very good football team. They're now 4-6, 2-5 in the conference. They're clearly a team that's rebuilding. Brand new coach, brand new young quarterback. But Illinois fans, me included, we've been feeling uneasy for 2 weeks now because of that bye week. We all know, all the articles have been written about Brett Bielema's November record. And it seems like every season that he's been here, in the final month of the season, we just tend to struggle. The line made me nervous. I believe it was -3.5 just a couple days ago with Illinois being favored. By the time kickoff rolled around, it was only -2, maybe even -1.5 in certain spots. So the money was coming in on Michigan State. And, for some of us who pay attention to the lines as much as I do, that makes you nervous. Vegas usually knows. But what did Illinois do? Props to the coaching. They had their players prepared today. Again, it was a 22-point victory. And honestly, it didn't feel like a 22-point victory. As I mentioned, I was stressed out for about 50 minutes of that game. But I was never... I never felt like we were being outplayed. We weren't playing great, But as I said, 5 minutes in, I was like, yeah, Illinois is a better team. Doesn't mean that they can take care of business. That doesn't mean that you don't have to take care of business. Sorry. But great victory against 7-3. Quite honestly, I think now we're at the point where I thought this game was huge. Okay, even though Michigan State's not that good, if we had lost our last home game of the season this year and gone to a 6-4 record, I would not have been confident in going to Piscataway and beating Rutgers at Rutgers. I think we're better than Northwestern, but you know what? Crazy, funky things can happen in Wrigley Field. And if we had lost today, you're talking about a team that's lost 3 in a row. You're talking about potentially team morale going down. And, regardless of whether Rutgers is good or not, I don't think they can decide this year. Some days they beat up on Minnesota, and some days they get walloped by, Wisconsin earlier this year. When you're going to play against Rutgers, you're going up against a Greg Schiano team that's going to be well coached. They're going to be physical. They're going to be everything that you kind of picture a Brett Bielema team to look like. And so if you lost 3 in a row, you're at 6-4. The whispers are starting. Here we go again. The bottom's falling out again, just like 2 years ago. 7-1, finished the season 8-5. This game could have been a disaster, but it wasn't. It was a 22-point victory. And now, my opinion, we could sweep the rest of these games. Still got to show up, but I really think this was kind of the pick-me-up that this team needed, that this coaching staff needed. For 2 weeks, they've sat on that loss against Minnesota. A loss that, they were in right until the end. When Luke basically fumbled that ball when we were very much in scoring territory. Minnesota's a good football team, but they just lost to Rutgers last week. So that's why, that's proof you can't take Rutgers lightly. But I honestly, genuinely believe that Illinois is one of the top 6 or 7 best teams in the Big Ten. Are we in the top 4? No. And I know some of you were not appreciating me mentioning the playoff talk, but understand I never said we could make the playoffs, or I never said we would make the playoffs. I said we could, and that's true. Right now, if you take a look at our season, is it even a bad loss to Minnesota? I don't think it's a bad loss. I think it's a loss, but losing at Oregon is not a bad loss. Losing at Penn State is not a bad loss. All right, I want to hear your guys' thoughts, so we're going to run one more break. Owen says, I'm more impressed with the 6-1 record at home. It's been a long time since we've seen that. You have to take care of business at home, right? Especially if you're Illinois. That Big Ten season, it's tough. This conference is stacked. Luckily, this year, it's not as stacked as it usually is. And I talked about this on a Illini cast earlier. When Michigan is down, when USC is down, when Wisconsin's not playing that great, when Iowa's okay, you need to step up and grab a couple extra victories. Because if you can't win 8 or 9 games when those teams are down, when are you ever going to win them? Michigan might be down for a little while if they don't make a coaching change. I'm not sure what's going on with USC, but I don't think they know what's going on at USC. But I do know that Lincoln Riley has a really, really expensive buyout. So I don't see him going anywhere. But with those programs being down, sure, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State on a different level. I'm not talking about those guys. Illinois, there's not a single person, and I'm talking about the most diehard, who thinks that Illinois could have won the Big Ten this year. So even if we end up being in the top handful of teams, I think that's a successful year. Jason, thanks for stopping by. Luke did what I said as far as touchdowns go, but for 300 yards, he was real close on that. Yeah, thanks to Pat Bryant. Pat Bryant had the longest, he had the most yards of his career, and I believe he had the longest reception of his career today. Malcolm says that's because Illinois fans have PTSD. Absolutely, man. I'm telling you, I was way more stressed than I probably should have been for a guy who's covering a team that's 6-3 at the time. Some of you watched my pregame with Matt Sheehan on Locked On Spartans. I assumed we were better, but with that heartbreaking loss to Minnesota, and maybe it is that PTSD that Malcolm just referenced, I was not confident coming into this game. 5 minutes into the game, we are better than this team. Please don't screw this up. And I'm grateful that Bret Bielema and the staff didn't screw this up. Jason says, Pat Bryant is, in my mind, a legit pro. 100%. I think there's no doubt about it. He's not I don't think he's a day one guy because I don't think he's fast enough. But the way he blocks and just the body control that he has. Speaking of body control, what about that Zakhari Franklin? I believe it was the second touchdown of the game. What a godsend he was in the transfer portal. How lucky are we that he had that relationship established with Barry Lundy Jr. in the past. He wanted to come play for us last year. Unfortunately, University of Illinois is one of the few universities that still care about their academic side. And it's not so easy to just have anyone transfer into this school. But the patience paid off. Zakhari did. We're glad he redshirted last year when he realized that he wasn't going to play much. And he's been one of the reasons I trust Bret Bielema when it comes to the way that they handle this transfer portal. Sure, Terrence Brooks seems like he may not have been worth, how do I phrase this politely? The hype that we got. But I mean, Torrey Cox, that was another transfer who's really stepped up in his role. Zakhari, we already mentioned. J.C. Davis, you're talking about a guy who's going to also play at the NFL level. Abby Herman says, great win for the seniors. Go Illini. 100%. This is a class, again, that you always want to win on senior day. And some of you watched Bret Bielema in one of the media sessions over the week. He got pretty emotional talking about when he got the shoes, his Nike shoes, that he had the names of all the seniors written on them. There's a culture here. These kids work hard. A lot of us, I've spent more of my life now being away from college, right? It's been, 20 years since I've been in college. These are young kids being molded. And you can tell that Bret Bielema, he's not, that hashtag family is not just a hashtag. It means so much more than that. And again, his voice started breaking up in the process. Malcolm says, Josh McCray. Yeah, I mean, I don't think in regards to player of the game, you can go wrong with either Josh McCray or Pat Bryant. I just wanted to give a shout out to Hank Beatty because I thought he played for what we asked him to do. And that's, return those punts. I think he put us in really good field position almost every single time. Mike Nintendo Master, thanks for stopping by. Also another vote for Pat Bryant. Jason says, glad we got the win, but I never want to see the three-man rush again. Jason, I don't get it. You guys, I know Illinois fans are emotional and you guys are passionate, and I love it. That's why this is one of the fastest growing channels on the entire network. By the way, if you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. I do these live post games after football and basketball games. But the network itself did not realize this channel would grow so fast. Why? It's because of the passion of fans like you, of the orange and blue. So after games where the defense plays poorly, I know a lot of heat's going to be on an Aaron Henry or a Barry Lundy Jr. And I feel like sometimes it's my role to kind of balance it out and try not to be too down or too high. Aaron Henry right now, as much as I defend him, and again, I did in the first segment, I actually think the defense really stepped up in that second half. We only allowed 16 points to this Michigan State team. why they keep going to this 3 or 4 man rush and just have the linebackers sit back. I don't understand. I wish I was in the post-game room to ask him these questions. Honestly, no, I'm wrong. The guys do ask these questions. But Aaron Henry has a plan. It just doesn't work. That's something, I don't know if it's an off-season thing. I wouldn't think it's an off-season thing. But they've got to figure something out because that just flat out doesn't work. It's cost us games this year. Another vote for Franklin. Jason says there has to be a hard look at severe overhaul on the D-line staff included. Michigan State is the worst pressure team in the Big Ten, and Luke was under duress way too much. Yeah, another fantastic point, Jason. I said this on Illini Cast, the preview show for this game this morning, that Michigan State was kind of the perfect team in front of us for the position we're in right now because we're all worried about our offensive line. Michigan State really doesn't have a defensive line. Well, they do, but they don't put much pressure on you. I think they said the stat that they haven't had a sack in, 4 or 5 games. If you guys recall, you might remember, let me know in the chat. This is not a team that should have stressed out Luke Altmaier, except it was a team that somehow still stressed out Luke Altmaier. Whether the overhaul, I don't know. I just wish they can figure it out. JC is going to go to the NFL next year. I think we can keep Melvin Priestley one more year. I love Brett Bielema, and I'm so grateful for him, and I'm so thankful that he's the man in charge of the Illini. But how he can't figure out this offensive line situation when that's what he's known for? Brett Bielema ball? That part I don't understand. Some of the guys, we've had a couple of recruiting cycles now. Did we strike out on all of them? I don't think so. But next year, something's got to be done. Whether it is with the O-line coach or something. I'm tired of stressing out about this. There's no way you could have told me in year 4 under Brett Bielema that we would be still stressing out about our offensive line or even our defensive line. A couple more of your comments right after this. Lee says, I want to go to Florida for New Year's. That would be nice. That would be fantastic. Give me Florida. Give me any of the nice bowls, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. I would have been completely content with any bowl at the beginning of the year. But right now, we've got some positive momentum. Purdue stinks. Anyone see that Purdue wide receiver? Think he got a touchdown, but he scored literally beyond the end zone, and he got mocked by the Penn State player. They're down. Let's go find some of the recruits that they have. Let's flip them. Right now, that's what we need. Did anyone walk on senior day that we didn't expect? Phil, fantastic question. If you know in this chat, please let me know. I didn't see it. I missed that. I was busy. I've got 2 young kids that I watch during the day just so that I can have my freedom for the middle part of the day just to watch and focus on this game. So I missed this senior walk. Let me know in the chat if you caught any notes about if there's any surprises. Like last year, it was Tip Ryman? Tip Ryman was not expected to be in celebrating the senior night, but he ended up doing it. And sure enough, he went to the NFL. I wonder if there was any guys today. 4th and 1 yard. Why don't the Illini put someone behind their running back to push the pile forward? Says William Whipple. Yeah, I don't trust our goal line right now. William also says Lunny Altmaier finally scored 30+ points, won a Big Ten football game. Oh, we've won a couple games now. Come on. Philip says, I outlined Illinois minus 10.5. What kind of number did you get on that, Phil? Dinner on Philip tonight. Check it out. Appreciate you stopping by. Great win. Which bowl game is the most likely for Illinois at this point? I couldn't tell you because I haven't seen the rest of the schedule for today, just because I've been locked in, no pun intended, on the Illinois game. I have no idea who's winning. I have no idea what the other records are at the moment, so I couldn't answer that for you. But maybe that's something I'll kind of take a look at for an episode this week. Lee says Citrus Bowl or Reliant Quest if we can win out or win one more game. And I think we can. Rutgers, Northwestern, we've gone through the most difficult part of our schedule. Starting from Minnesota, in my opinion, it went from the toughest game, and progressively each week it should get easier. Let's see what we can do against Rutgers. So one game at a time, right? Owen says, Hank Beatty won a state title at Rochester. I enjoy watching him at the next level. Yeah, super easy guy to root for. And Randy says, I think it's been 6 games now for Michigan State without a sack. Yeah, exactly. So it was a game where it was a get-right game for the Illini. And the Illini, guess what? They got right. Are they where they need to be? No. Have my review of the team, like, do I still think they're one of the 4 best teams in the conference? No, I don't. We just have way too many holes that we need to shore up. But outside the top 3, well, I guess we can say top 4. Let's be honest. We got to give credit to Indiana at this point, right? Congrats to Kurt Signetti. If there's anyone who deserves that $8 million a year that he's about to get, it's him. There's 4 clearly. It's the Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Indiana, and then I think we're right there in that next tier. You know, maybe Minnesota has an edge over us just because they beat us in a head-to-head while we were at home. But even if we're number 6, that's fine, guys. This is Illinois football. We got to enjoy the process. We're at 7 wins now. Those 5 wins in Brett's first year, 8 wins his second year, 5 wins last year. But I've talked about this. Just a couple bounces of the ball, one way or the other. It could have been back-to-back-to-back bowl games. So just never take for granted making a bowl game. And now at this point, the more we win, the better the bowl game. That's going to wrap it up for this quick edition of Locked On Illini. Please, on your way out, hit that like button and subscribe button if you haven't already. Content for you guys every single day. The everydayers in the chat, they'll let you know every single day. I'm producing something 20 to 30-minute video talking about whatever the big news stories are. I do the same thing for Illinois men's basketball, and I'm contemplating doing the live reaction shows for the women's basketball games. So if that's what you want, let me know. I produce everything on the show. It's up to me what I cover on the show. So I want to make you guys happy. If there's a certain guest you want on the show, go tweet at him. Email him. Hey, you should join Sunny at Locked On Illini. I'm more than open. If you guys would like to come on the show, let me know. Maybe we'll have a call-in show very, very soon. But regardless, I appreciate all of you. We'll have a brand new episode Monday morning. What I'm going to talk about, probably this game for sure. And I'm going to talk about that Purdue and Alabama game and how I've readjusted my expectations for our game against Alabama on Wednesday night. But until then, thank you all so much for stopping by. ILL. Love you guys.